Yes, it is our historyouthere.com segment with Harold Peacock, who is on the line for the first time. Good morning, mate.
Yes, good morning, Damo. It's a big week leading up to Australia Day, so it's an exciting time, especially because you're back, so it makes it all worthwhile.
Well, thank you so much, mate. And are you good with Australia Day? You do get the Aussie flag out and put the thongs on? And
You wouldn't believe what I wear as well. Don't you worry about that.
I could imagine, actually. I'm just picturing it now. Australia Day is certainly, morphing into something a little bit different, obviously, in the last decade or so. But back in the 30s and 40s, there was so much patriotism, wasn't there?
Oh, that's right. But particularly in Toowoomba, it was really proud of Australia Day. We were then. And it's always developing, always morphing. But back then, the Cafe Alexandra on Ruthven Street, that was the place to be on Australia Day. And that's in the 30s when Toowoomba really puffed out its chest, proud of Australia Day. But the Australia Day dinner at Toowoomba was traditionally held at Cafe Alexandra, with Australian flags draped all over the walls. You and I would have fitted in well. You wouldn't have seen us with what we're wearing. And the well-known cafe was a centre of official celebrations for decades. Now, that cafe was founded in 1901 by the Welshman Mr. Thomas Lamb, who for, about 30 years, he was one of the most prominent business speakers in Toowoomba. Now, from the cafe, he built a pretty big business specialising, and wait for it because you will love this, specialising in cake and pastry making, with a statewide country trade. So it would have become the your house, my house for sure, really. But in 1938, the guest of honour for the Australia Day dinner at Cafe Alexandra was Mr. Arthur Fadden. He was an accountant, the federal member for the Darling Downs, and soon to be the 13th Prime Minister of Australia.
Right.
Now, when Mr. Fadden said in Toowoomba that evening what he said, it really reflected the pride that had built up around Australia Day. He said you only had to consider the first 37 years since Federation to get an idea of the vast strides Australia had made in self-government, catching up with far older countries around the world. He said what everyone knew, that the progress of Australia had been faster and greater than that of any other country in the world. Now, the Australia Day dinners at the Cafe Alexandra grew in importance, including to become a veritable red carpet of fashion. Again, you would have loved this. Here's an example from 1940. Mrs. Isabel Annand, who was the wife of Toowoomba's longest-serving mayor, she wore a dinner gown of black French Mariette, displaying long sleeves and a softly gathered bodice. And then Mrs. Ellen Dent, who was wife of the secretary of the organising committee and son of the first European to settle on the Darling Downs, she chose a gown of floral Mariette in autumn tonings, which displayed a pale blue swathed sash. Now, I'm reading this because this is not my normal morning reading. But it's just the fashion was fantastic. And I should mention Mrs. Margaret Yates as well. She was a wife of a local member of State Parliament whose 5 sons would all see active service in the Second World War. So Australia meant a lot to them. She wore beige pink lace over taffetas, fashioned with long full sleeves of Mariette inlet with ints, a moulded skirt and swathed sash of silver lane. Whatever all that means, but it sounds fantastic, doesn't it? But the enthusiasm around Australia Day and the celebrations, it just continued. And it continued to build so much that in 1949, the day was celebrated in Toowoomba with not one, but 2 processions.
Wow.
Now, the second procession was organised by the Australia Day Committee and went to the showgrounds where children's sports were played and, importantly, free ice cream was distributed. Now, the first procession was organised by the Vigoro Association and included a load of floats and 25 teams of Vigoro players. The parade ended in Queen's Park, where Vigoro was played for the entire day. Now, for the uninitiated, Vigoro is a game played, mostly by women, pretty much only in Australia. But it was invented in England in 1901 as an attempt to merge tennis and cricket, those 2 summer sports. One of the earliest matches was actually played at Lord's. It was between a tennis team, including the world champion of real tennis and a couple of Wimbledon champs, versus a team of cricketers led by the most prolific run-getters in a county championship at the time.
Well,
Now, the cricketers lost, so Lords ensured the merger never really got off the ground, of course. But anyway, on Australia Day, 1949, Toowoomba's Vigoro team beat Brisbane in the final to claim the R.A. Tulloch Shield, which was named after a Russell Street auctioneer.
right.
Now, interestingly, for many years, Toowoomba Rugby League also presented an R.A. Tulloch Shield, which was interesting. But anyway, so, Damo, we should all be proud this Australia Day, especially here in Toowoomba, where the Vigoro and the dinners at the old Cafe Alexandra were always particularly popular and a highlight of the celebrations.
They certainly were. Now, I did see, when I was doing a bit of research on this, a post that was put up on Facebook on social media last year. So it's fairly recent, September last year. And it was from a lady called Susie, and she said her family owned and operated at Alexandra Cafe in TK Lamb. Many wonderful memories, especially when they had weddings. Lindsay Thorpe, the proprietor, was my dad and was a well-known cricketer, played for Queensland and Sheffield Shield.
Absolutely, you recognise the name. And so look, it's going to be, because the cafe was there for over a century, would love to hear more. And I could happy to research that to see what stories, to see what that cafe actually produced, because certainly the excitement of Australia Day dinners is just one. A lot of other stories can come out of that cafe. So whether that place, any of the listeners, Damo, if they've got information they want to shoot into you, and then I'll research it and see if we can come up with some more really revealing stories of our past.
Exactly. You can always email us at 4akbrekkie@gmail.com. That's 4akbrekkie@gmail.com. And in fact, on this post, there is a lady her and her husband are the current custodians of the building and have started to collect the stories so that they can showcase them.
Let's go. Let's start helping them and gather those stories. And
all right.
Share them here with you on Tuesday mornings.
There you go. So if you've got any memories of Cafe Alexandra or the TK Lamb and Co. In the building there in Ruthven Street, email us at 4akbrekkie@gmail.com. I'm sure there's plenty of stories that we can get together and then present them to the current custodians to make it a part of their historical landscape. So, mate, always a good chat, and that will be up on your website later this week.
Yes, historyouthere.com. And welcome back, Damo. That's the highlight of this week. But yeah, historyouthere.com, and you can see some minor highlights.
Fantastic, mate. Look forward to chatting again next week.
See you there.